During the construction of the world's deepest diving pool in Dubai, an unusual problem stopped the engineering team right after they had excavated a 45-meter tunnel into the ground. It became known that a diving pool named Deep Spot had opened in Poland, and its depth was also 45 meters. Obviously, if Dubai wanted the world record for the deepest pool, they would have to increase its depth from 45 meters to 60 meters. However, this task, which sounds easy, was incredibly difficult to execute. Experts calculated that if the pool's depth were increased to 60 meters, the groundwater pressure could easily push it upward. This is similar to dropping a full bottle of water into a pool. It stays on the surface because of the buoyancy force from the pool's water pushing it up from underneath. This meant the entire pool could potentially lift out of the ground at any moment. At this point in construction, the dream of building the world's deepest pool in Dubai seemed shattered. But then, an idea changed everything. Welcome back to the Global Compass. When it comes to setting world records, the first name that comes to mind is Dubai. With 425 Guinness World Records, Dubai is currently #1 in the entire Middle East, and it feels like the rulers of Dubai do not want to lose this title at any cost. Another addition was made to this library of world records at the request of the Crown Prince of Dubai, Sheikh Hamdan bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Today, the world knows it as Deep Dive Dubai. Deep Dive Dubai is not just a pool, it's an extraordinary world. With a depth of 197 feet, 60 meters, it is the world's deepest pool, holding approximately 14 million liters of water. That's equivalent to the amount of water in 6 Olympic swimming pools, or what 90,000 people use in an entire day. The pool features a sunken city theme, offering divers an experience that was previously difficult even to imagine. To keep the water clean, a system was developed with the help of NASA that cleans all 14 million liters every 6 hours. Whether the outside temperature is 50 Celsius, 122 F, or 20 Celsius, 68 F, the pool water is constantly maintained at a comfortable 30 Celsius, 86 F for divers. But here, we are less interested in the features of deep dive and more in its construction techniques. The engineering community believes that this deepest pool in Dubai is nothing short of an engineering miracle. What were the difficulties engineers faced during the construction of Deep Dive Dubai? Let's take a look without wasting any time. The first challenge was planning and design. Crown Prince Sheikh Hamdan wanted a design that would reflect a glimpse of Dubai's cultural values. Before oil and tourism, the major industry in Dubai was pearl diving. Professional divers would jump into the open sea without scuba gear, search for seashells, extract pearls, and sell them. A large part of Dubai's economy was once dependent on pearl diving. With this idea in mind, Deep Dive was designed in the shape of a seashell, a shell that, when viewed from a distance, looks like an open shell on the seashore. But that was just the outer facade. The decision now was how to build the world's deepest diving pool inside it. Architects and engineers were brought in from all over the world to provide realistic ideas for this project. The easiest way was to erect a strong 45-meter-tall building and fill it with water. But this idea had a problem. While the pool would be 45 meters deep, the condition for a world record was that the pool had to be built below ground, not above it. Secondly, Dubai is a very hot city. If the pool were built in a building above ground, the ambient heat could affect the pool's atmosphere. The Crown Prince of Dubai wanted a pool whose depth, not just its design, would be talked about worldwide. It was then decided that the world's deepest diving pool would be excavated below ground. A shaft would be dug into the earth, not horizontally, but vertically. This marked the beginning of a new challenge: excavation. The engineering team's challenge was to dig a shaft 65 feet wide and 147 feet deep. This shaft not only had to be dug, but a wall also had to be built along its border to prevent it from collapsing. In engineering terms, this wall is called a diaphragm wall. A special excavator was brought in to carry out this work. Using the machine, a hole the width of a pillar was dug to a depth of 147 feet. Then a steel cage was inserted and concrete was poured in. The entire diaphragm wall was then built in this same manner, in small chunks. This entire process took more than 2 months. After this, the excavation work began. The plan was to excavate in 5-meter increments down to the 45-meter mark where the diaphragm wall was present. However, after the first 5 meters of digging, a new challenge awaited them: dealing with groundwater. When the excavation began after the diaphragm wall was constructed, water emerged from the ground after just 8 meters. Because the diaphragm wall had been built in chunks, there were small gaps and groundwater easily seeped through these gaps, collecting in the middle of the tunnel. It was impossible to continue excavation without managing the groundwater. To tackle this problem, pumps were installed to continuously remove the water, while the excavation work also continued simultaneously. Digging continued for the next 2 years, with the pumps running non-stop throughout this period. A total of 45,000 tons of soil, sand, and rock debris were removed for Deep Dive Dubai. When the pumps were turned off after excavation, the tunnel began to fill with water again. In this situation, it was essential to waterproof the diaphragm wall thoroughly first. Waterproofing of the diaphragm wall took several months, and only then were the water pumps permanently turned off. The diaphragm wall, tunnel excavation, and waterproofing to stop the groundwater took a total of more than 3 years. The engineering team was already running very late. Every single day was valuable. But during this time, a new problem arose in the construction process of Deep Dive. Just when the diaphragm wall was ready, excavation was complete and the groundwater was managed, news arrived that a deep diving pool named Deep Spot had opened near Warsaw, Poland, and its depth was also 45 meters or 147 feet. This news struck the entire deep dive project team like a lightning bolt, as all their efforts so far had been dedicated to setting a world record. Normally, details for projects of this nature are kept secret, and that's what had happened in this case. When the Crown Prince of Dubai learned about this, he requested that the world record could still easily be set by increasing the depth of deep dive even further. But there was a problem. Groundwater was present just 8 meters below the surface and extended all the way down to 45 meters. This meant the groundwater would push the entire pool up from below, a force also known as buoyancy force. Engineers had already calculated how to counter this force with the weight of the water to be filled inside the pool. This calculation was based on the pool's 45-meter depth. But if the pool's depth was increased by another 15 meters, the buoyancy force would naturally increase significantly. It was highly possible that the entire pool, along with the diaphragm wall, could be pushed out of the ground. Construction was halted due to this issue. It was crucial to find a solution as quickly as possible. After much research, a solution was finally found. First, an extra 15 meters would be excavated in the tunnel. However, the diameter of these extra 15 meters would be approximately half the diameter of the initial 45 meters. This would reduce the area of the buoyancy force. Second, an under-reaming base would be built at the bottom of the tunnel. Under-reaming is a technique where an anchor-like structure is embedded in the ground beneath the foundation of a structure. Just as an anchor holds an entire ship, under-reaming would tie the entire structure to the ground. Using this method, Deep Dive. Dubai's depth was extended from 45 meters to 60 meters, 197 feet, making the entire project eligible for the Guinness Book once again. However, the problems were still not over. As days passed, keeping the 60-meter deep tunnel empty was dangerous. The buoyancy force could only be canceled out by the water inside the pool. If it was left empty for too long, the entire structure could be lifted up by the groundwater. Now it was time to fill it with 14 million liters of water. But the problem was that Dubai's Water Supply Authority could provide only a very limited amount of water. If the pool were filled at that speed, it could take 3 months. To meet the deadline and complete the work quickly, over 100 water tankers were brought in to supplement the Dubai Water Authority's supply. You can gauge the grand scale of Deep Dive by the fact that despite this effort, it still took 1 month to fill the pool. It is worth mentioning here that the submerged city theme was created inside the pool before the water was added. Even after filling the pool, they faced many new challenges. For instance, some materials began to rust, and some items started floating after the water was added. They then made holes in those items and added extra weight so they wouldn't float. After all the finishing touches, Deep Dive was first opened for special guests in 2021 and then for the public in 2022. The cost incurred on Deep Dive Dubai remains a secret kept by the Dubai government, as they consider it a priceless project. What are your thoughts on this? Be sure to let me know in the comments section. I hope you will like and share this video. See you in the next fantastic video. Thanks for watching.